My name's Adam, and thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to cover off the differences between good debt and bad debt. If you haven't already downloaded our Retirement Ready ebook, we provided a link below. Download, it's absolutely free for you, and it'll help you with the next few steps to get retirement ready. So what do you need to do? How much do you need to save? And steps you should take to make sure that you can retire on time and with enough money. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. We release new videos every single week, and we will be releasing our masterclass course over the next few weeks. So, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notifications when we launch the new course and also the next video within our mini series. So let's jump into good debt versus bad debt, and what's the difference between the two? So we take on many different types of debt, whether it's for travel, education, new vehicle, house, kids, parents. There's so many reasons why we take on debt, but they don't all fall into the same category, and often we lump them into one category. But there is a clear difference between a good debt and a bad debt. So we're going to quickly cover off that today so that you can kind of review your own personal balance sheet to see where your debt fits into and what debts you have in place that you need to consolidate and work on eliminating, which are your bad debts. So I like to put bad debt into a bucket that's called consumer debt. So you've borrowed money for consumption, whether it's be for travel, for a vehicle, for food, for whatever it is. So if it's something that you consume, or let's say it's an ATV or a boat, that's a consumption item. Those consumption items are bad debt. So if you're looking to buy a new vehicle, an ATV, go on a trip, personal, family, whatever it is, those consumption items need to be paid in cash. So if you're carrying debt, whether it's on a credit card, a line of credit, whatever it is, if that debt is driven from the consumer side of things, so consumption debt, we need to work on getting rid of this bad debt. Typically, bad debt carries a higher interest rate because you carry that debt on either an unsecured line of credit or on a credit card. So because you're paying a high interest rate, we really need to work on eliminating that debt. If you carry bad debt, it could be anywhere from obviously $0 up until we've seen hundreds of thousands of dollars of bad debt that people carry. A lot of time it's just from bad choices. You're buying boats and ATVs and going on trips that you can't afford. So it starts to accumulate quickly, and you're carrying those debts on a consolidation loan, on a high interest credit card, and you're paying thousands of dollars every single month just in interest. So let's work on eliminating that. The goal should be to eliminate your bad debt within 1 to 2 years. Regardless of the amount of bad debt that you have, in order to pay it off, it's going to take a lot of work and effort and determination to rejig your budget to make sure that you have more cash flow to pay down those credit cards, line of credit, wherever that debt is carried. So it doesn't just start with, let's just pay off the debt. You need to start at the very beginning and work on your budget, free up some more cash flow, make some life choices. Maybe you don't travel for a couple of years because your previous travel is still being paid off. Again, don't travel, don't buy these consumer items without having the cash available. Do not borrow money for a lot of these consumption items. The reason I stress bad debt so much is because bad debt has, again, higher interest rates. Higher interest rates have higher minimum payments. So it's a cycle that we get into, and what that does is it either delays our retirement or reduces the income in retirement. My goal with all of our clients is to make sure that they can retire on time and with enough money. And the number one killer of that is bad debt, bad spending. So if we can control that bad debt, bring it back in, pay it off in the next year or two, that allows us to now focus on retirement, saving for retirement, building good assets, taking on good debt. So if we can do that, you're going to be far better off moving forward on a financial standpoint. So let's focus on getting rid of that bad debt, building up good assets, and that's going to help us retire earlier or with more money. The last thing I'll say on bad debt, if you can work on creating a better budget and creating more cash flow to pay off that bad debt, once a bad debt is paid off, that cash flow is still there. So, if you don't readjust everything, that just means that you have that much more money to keep saving for assets, for retirement, for travel, for those consumer items that you can now pay cash for. So you're kind of working the other way now, where you're going to have that free cash flow to buy the things you want to buy. So it's going to take a year or two or maybe 3, tight budget, not spending a lot of money elsewhere to pay off that debt. But once it's paid off, you're going to have a lot of financial freedom moving forward. So jumping into good debt's going to be your home, an investment in a business, or an investment in something else that generates cash flow. Okay, so good debt might be, again, the house that you live in. It might be a rental property where there's cash flow generating out of that. It might be a small or medium-sized business that you're either bought or you're building. So again, it's got to be something that either generates an income for you or is your principal residence. So that's the definition of good debt. The only other item I would kind of lump into good debt is student loans. So if you need to go to post-secondary education to get, a degree, advance your education, and there's a cost to that, but the benefit is higher income and you're able to pay that off within 1 to 2 years after you graduate, that I will lump into good debt as well. But I often see people go $50,000 to $100,000 into student loan debt to jump out and get a $50,000 job. To pay off that student loan debt, it's going to take many, many, many years. So that is bad debt. So if you can pay off your student loan within kind of 1 to 3 years out of post-secondary education, that's good debt. If it's going to take you more than that, that falls into the bad debt. So it can go either way. So make sure if you take on student loans that you have a clear plan that you're able to pay it off within a few years. One of the benefits with good debt is that it usually carries a lower interest rate. So right now you can get a mortgage for sub 2%, which is absolutely crazy. Down in the States, you can get it locked in 30-year for around 2.5% to 2.75%. So interest rates are super low, and your good debt, because it's good debt usually backed by a good asset, the bank or lender will look at it as low risk. So they'll give you a much better rate to borrow at. So we have clients often ask us, can you have too much good debt, right? Good debt is good, but is there a limit to how much good debt we should have? And I say absolutely. So, you have your principal residence. We see a lot of people going out and having, 5, 6, 10 rental properties, which is great, especially if you bought them 5 years ago. They've appreciated very well, no matter where you are in Canada, but especially, Vancouver, Toronto, some of the main hubs. So you've done quite well, but you could be leveraged still quite heavily. So be careful not to leverage yourself too much on especially real estate and in business. So don't start buying multiple businesses where you have multiple loans out there. Because if those loans start to get called, it can put you in a very tough situation. So those are the 2 areas to be careful of: rental properties and businesses. Again, both good debt, but just be aware of how much good debt you have, because if they start to get called, or let's say the real estate market starts to soften, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to sell something you don't want to sell, or one of your loans gets called. The last part I want to talk about is how we trick ourselves into bad debt. So we'll maybe go out and borrow money to buy a new car, but the new car gets us to work. So we try to justify it in our head that that's good debt because it helps us generate income. The reality is that's still bad debt. So don't trick yourself into, a bad debt, putting it into a good debt. Again, there's very few good debt categories. Your home, principal residence, anything that generates income, so maybe a rental property or a business that generates ongoing cash flow. Outside of that, they're not good debt, they're bad debt. So don't fall into that trap of, well, if I buy a boat and borrow money for it, it means that we can now, do that for vacation as a family, and those are memories, so that's good debt. That's still bad debt. Save up cash, buy the boat with cash, buy the ATV with cash, buy your vehicles with cash. Don't fall into the trap of putting bad debt into the good debt bucket. So hopefully you have a better understanding of good debt versus bad debt. Again, so many of us carry too much bad debt. Let's work on eliminating that. So create a plan. If you don't have a plan to eliminate your debt, meet with a financial planner, your accountant, whoever it is that you trust and can build a plan with alongside and can hold you accountable along the way. So goal should be to pay off your bad debt in 1 to 2 years. If you have a lot of bad debt, it might take a bit longer, but have a plan, stick to that plan, be diligent with it. And remember, when you're done paying off that bad debt, you're still going to have that cash flow, which is going to give you so much financial freedom down the road. So let's focus on paying off that bad debt, keeping that cash flow going, and then saving more for retirement and the other toys that you want to buy that you used to buy on credit, you can now pay cash for going forward. Again, if you haven't already downloaded our retirement ready ebook, please do so. There's a link below. It's really going to help you make those next steps into getting, financial freedom, get ready for retirement, and some decision making around CPP and that kind of stuff. So take a look at that. Download. It's absolutely free for you. And if you haven't already liked the video, please hit the like button. It helps us tremendously in the YouTube algorithm. It pushes our videos out to more people, and we need this content to get to more people because Canadians are struggling with bad debt. They need to understand good debt versus bad debt. So take a second, hit the like button. It helps us tremendously. And make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell so that every week when we launch a new video, you're getting notification of that. And again, we're going to be launching our masterclass course in the coming weeks. We're going to have a multitude of videos launching out on that. So you'll get notifications when those come out. And we're going to have a launch promo code within those videos as well. So if you want to save a few $100s on our course, that's the way to do it. Thanks again for joining us and have a great week.